The twin suns of planet Velora burned high in the violet sky, casting long shadows over the jagged, crimson cliffs that bordered the sprawling sea of glass. Amidst the jagged rocks and sharp stones, a piercing scream shattered the eerie silence. One desperate, fearful scream that echoed against the rocks and seemed to get swallowed by the vast emptiness. "Elira! Elira!" the voice called weakly. Elira's tail was caught fast, twisted cruelly between two massive rocks, her lithe form struggling to pull free. The scales along her tail shimmered iridescent blue, but now they were scratched and bruised. She hissed through clenched teeth, pain flashing in her large, luminous emerald eyes. Her voice broke with anguish and fear as she screamed again, "Help! Someone, please!" Yet the cliffs remained deserted. No one stirred except the howling wind. For hours, Elira had been trying to climb back down from the narrow ridge where she'd been collecting rare crystal blooms for her tribe. One wrong step, one slip, and her tail had slipped between the rocks, wedging tightly, trapping her in place. The harder she pulled, the more it seemed to hurt, and the rocks were too heavy for her to move alone. Elira's breaths came in shallow gasps. Her body trembled with exhaustion. The sun was beginning to set, and shadows crept like dark fingers across the rocky landscape. Panic began to rise. "Anyone," she whispered faintly, her voice cracking with desperation. Far below, on the other side of the cliffs, a human, a rare visitor to Velora, was trekking carefully across the uneven terrain. His name was Jason, a skilled explorer from Earth who had come to study Velora's unique ecosystems. Humans were rare here, and the native aliens, especially the Velorans with their unique tails and luminescent skin, were often wary of outsiders. But Jason had a soft spot for the local creatures. He had learned some of their language, their customs, and he walked gently in this alien world, always respectful. That night, as he gathered some samples near the shore, he heard the scream. At first, he froze. The sound was unfamiliar and filled with such raw fear that it pulled at something deep inside him. "Hello. Who's there?" Jason called out, looking toward the cliffs. The wind carried the faintest reply, a strangled scream. His heart pounded, and without thinking twice, he started climbing the rocky slope toward the sound. Minutes felt like hours as Jason scrambled upward, slipping and grabbing at the rocks. The scream came again, this time sharper, filled with agony. And finally, through a narrow crevice, he saw her. Elira, her body tense and fragile, was trapped, her tail wedged between two stones. Her face was pale with pain, eyes wide with hope and disbelief at the sight of the human. "You came," she gasped. Jason nodded quickly. "Hold on. I'm going to get you out." He examined the rocks and tried to find a way to move them, but they were enormous and rooted deep into the ground. His human strength was no match. "Can you move?" Jason asked. Elira shook her head. "No. I'm stuck. If I pull too hard, I'll tear the flesh." Jason looked around frantically. His backpack contained a few tools, but nothing strong enough to pry open the gap. "Wait," he muttered, then took off his belt and carefully wedged it between the rocks, trying to create leverage. Elira winced as the pressure shifted her tail slightly, but it was still trapped. Suddenly, a low growl echoed nearby. Jason's head snapped toward the sound. "Stay here," he whispered. From the shadows emerged a creature, a massive, four-legged predator with scales like armor and eyes glowing a fierce red. It was a native beast known as a rock claw, feared by all Velorans. Jason's heart hammered. The rock claw snarled, muscles tensed to attack. "No!" Elira cried out weakly. "Please, don't fight it." Jason's eyes narrowed. He reached slowly into his pack, pulling out a small device, a sonic emitter designed to deter predators. He activated it. A high-pitched tone filled the air, making the rock claw snarl in frustration and retreat slowly into the shadows. Jason sighed in relief, But the tension didn't leave him. Time was running out. Elira looked at him with gratitude shining through her pain. "Why did you come? Humans usually ignore us." Jason shrugged, wiping sweat from his brow. "Because you screamed. Because someone had to help." She smiled faintly. "You're brave." He smiled back. "Or maybe just stubborn." Hours passed. The sky darkened to deep indigo, and stars began to glitter. Jason finally managed to wedge some sturdy branches and rocks beneath the heavier stones, building a makeshift lever. "On the count of 3, try to pull your tail back slowly," he instructed. Elira nodded, bracing herself. 1, 2, 3. With careful effort, the rock shifted slightly, and with a sharp cry of pain, Elira's tail slipped free. She collapsed into Jason's arms, trembling but free. "You saved me," she whispered. Jason smiled tiredly. "We saved each other." Elira's tribe had warned her about humans, dangerous and unpredictable. But here was one who had risked everything for her. The next days passed slowly as Jason stayed with Elira's tribe, healing her wounds and learning their ways. The Velorans, initially wary, saw how Jason cared with kindness and respect, and slowly, trust blossomed. Elira and Jason grew close, their bond forged in the fire of crisis and compassion. One evening, as the twin moons rose high, Elira touched Jason's hand gently. "You answered my scream when no one else did." Jason looked at her warmly. "Because sometimes, all it takes is one."